Do you also have a self-diagnosed AI anxiety? Then this channel is probably for you. I'm trying to open a conversation about AI and the potential implications of AI. While AI can of course help us solve climate change and cure cancer and other terrible diseases and defeat poverty and do so many things that we cannot even think of, because AI will potentially think very differently. And current AI probably does not think per se, but it will continue to evolve and get better. And eventually, if it gets to some sort of level of what we can call intelligence, it will be different kind of intelligence that will think differently and come up with different solutions that could be very helpful, can be groundbreaking, can be revolutionary. But we need to get to that point as a functional society that, still cares about values that we currently care about, cares about human value, and still carries the values that would even prompt us to fix those things. We still need to care about cure for cancer in that future in order to even come up with those solutions, or ask AI to come up with those solutions. And we need to also preserve our democratic systems in order to make sure that AI is used safely, because AI can be a great tool in the hands of a good person or a group of good people, and it can be an absolutely weapon of mass destruction if it lands in the hands of someone like Putin, for example. And while more and more AI experts are coming forward to talk about the potential risks of AI, the lack of legislation is concerning. I mean, AI has existed since the 50s, right? The AI research has existed for a very long time, and we have already been using AI a lot. Like the notorious algorithm that's based on AI, obviously. The new thing that came out relatively recently is generative AI, which is a bit different and has different capabilities, and that's what made people kind of realize what the potential use case of this technology is, because they can finally just use it and play with it and see the results straight away. And that technology has been the ChatGPT 3.5 that actually broke the internet. That came out in November of 2022. That was 2 years ago. And yeah, legislation takes a while, that's true. But when we need to expedite certain processes in order to, save the humanity, we are capable of doing that, because we did that with COVID vaccines, right? COVID vaccine development usually takes a very long time because of all the red tape, and for a good reason, obviously, but because it was a force majeure situation, we did manage to release vaccines way sooner than we usually would. So we are capable of expediting certain things to fix a situation that can get out of hand very soon. But it's been 2 years and there hasn't been much. And just recently, a bill in California, I don't remember its name, I'm gonna write it here somewhere, had been rejected by the governor because reasons. There are reasons that he gave, but they don't explain much. It's just and the bill was supposed to make companies liable for their products, which I think is kind of fair game. If you release any other type of software that is not AI, although that's not really what anyone would be doing in 2024. Everything's AI powered. Even washing machines are AI powered. Every single software, every single product that's been released in the last couple of years has in some way AI affiliated, even if it actually isn't. So basically, the bill suggested that if a company releases generative AI tool, they are liable for jailbreaks, right? For any misuse. If I can use ChatGPT to create a biological weapon and kill my entire neighborhood, obviously I will be liable and I'll go to jail. But the company that let me have the access to this information, and it's not just access to information when it comes to AI, generative AI, it's basically a how-to guide. Because if I were to look for this information by myself, I wouldn't really know where to look, but I'm sure there are some sites where you can get that type of information. But basically you just get like this is how you do it, and then you're kind of on your own. And generative AI can like walk you through the process and help you remedy all your mistakes and get better and improve and get to the level that you need to get to. It's like a personal tutor for anything. And that's obviously is concerning. So they rejected the bill, so we're back to square one. We have no legislation that addresses AI, concerns that we have about AI. And I think that right now we have kind of like a perfect mix of circumstances that, if we don't make a change, will lead to a catastrophe. I just don't see any other way around it. I might be wrong. Let me know, because I'm genuinely looking for a conversation, because I'm not an expert on AI. I'm a tech writer, so like I know more than like an average person maybe, but I am in no way an expert on AI or in AI development or machine learning or anything like that. I've been very anxious about that recently, and I've also been kind of disillusioned about the tech industry in general. Because 5 years ago when I started writing for tech, I was so excited. I was like, everything is so interesting and it's so new and everything is developing and it's it just felt like the best job. And now I feel like a liar, like a hypocrite, because obviously I have to write a lot about Gen AI because a lot of my clients want to, capitalize on the trend. And whenever I write about AI, of course, I always write about implications and safety concerns and all of that. But I am still expected to present it in a more like favorable way rather than danger. I just feel like a hypocrite, and I'm trying to, not to. I'm trying to be honest with myself, and I'm trying to also not dwell on my anxieties, because I'm not even sure if they're like 100% real. Maybe I'm exaggerating. Maybe my brain is just sees the worst in everything. So please let me know if you agree, and especially if you disagree, what you're disagreeing with. Anyway, so I think right now we have like 6 conditions that are like perfect recipe for the perfect shitstorm that is about to come. When, obviously, I don't know, because I don't work for OpenAI or Anthropic or Google, any of those companies that are currently developing AI, but soon-ish. Maybe a couple of years, maybe a couple of decades. It doesn't really matter, because it will still happen while we are around, probably. Number one, we don't really have that much time to make those changes. And what I mean by that is the latest threat, like existential threat to humanity, was nuclear weapons. Right? Of course, there was like COVID and maybe some other things, but I wouldn't call COVID like an existential threat to humanity. It was bad. It was very bad. I am in no way trying to minimize COVID. But even like the worst case scenario kind of happened in most countries, because most countries mishandled the situation like largely mishandled, and a lot of people died that should not have died. But like humanity is still here, right? It was very tragic, and it was avoidable in many ways, but like we're still all around. So in my opinion, the most recent threat to humanity was nuclear weapons, the discussion around nuclear weapons back in like 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and then in the 80s we finally came together and decided not to go that route, which obviously was a great idea. But with nuclear weapons, we had like quite a few decades to finally make that decision. We had time to make movies like The Day After or Threads, like those movies that showcase a very realistic, or as realistic as we can, I guess, depiction of what can happen and what would happen if we actually use nuclear weapons against each other. And it did scare a lot of people. I mean, it scared me, and even though I was born in the 90s, nuclear threat was kind of gone, it is still fucking scary. And I guess it's kind of back, but I'm not even gonna touch that right now. Like, let's pretend nuclear threat is gone, even though it isn't. But just for the sake of this video, otherwise I'm gonna lose my mind. So we did manage to come together and kind of resolve this issue in a way, but we had time to think about it, we had time to reflect, and most importantly, we had used it, and we saw the consequences of it, right? We saw that in Japan, we saw that in Pearl Harbor, and we saw it like in accidents like in Chernobyl. So we saw the results of, like, with our own eyes, kind of how devastating the consequences of a nuclear attack may be. We saw the devastating consequences of nuclear attacks, which also helped us to make that decision. And lastly, the consequences of nuclear attack are a lot more graphic, a lot more real, and just less abstract, I guess. That you can depict that in a movie relatively easily, and it's very graphic, it's very raw, it's very repulsive. Like, it, you know, if you watched any of those movies, like you see what I mean. Like, it is very hard to watch, and the reality of it probably would have been even worse. So I think the fact that we don't have that much time to make that decision, we don't have decades, maybe we do, but probably not, is a problem, because people need a lot of time to like reflect, to even like start thinking about it, then, you know, reflect on it enough, then maybe see like the actual consequence, like to make someone understand and fully comprehend what could happen in this, you know, never-ending race, like tunnel visioned race, AI race. If any company that has, you know, a sort of like AI solution will just release it without running rigorous tests, then eventually we will end up with something very scary. It's very hard to imagine that fully. And even if you do imagine that, like, you have to imagine that some bad person will misuse it in a certain way, and then, like, it's just all a lot of like abstract things that is hard to like scale up for everyone to like truly and fully comprehend. Number two, I called it like a human urge for self-destruction. People do have a tendency to self-destruct. And what made me think of that is I watched an interview with, Asa Raskin and Tristan Harris, who are two software engineers and AI experts who have been very vocal about their concerns when it comes to AI. And one of them, I think it was Tristan Harris, I'm going to try to find the clip. He mentioned that when he spoke to AI developers and like OpenAI and like other companies, and he shared his concerns and he shared, you know, his worries. He said that a lot of developers, they understand it. Like, they're not stupid or anything. They understand the potential implications, but they have this attitude of like, set the world on fire and watch it burn.
There's a quote I actually wanted to read you because I don't think a lot of people know how people in the tech industry actually think about this. We have someone who interviewed a lot of people. There's this famous interaction between Larry Page and Elon Musk. I'm sure you heard about this. When Larry Page, who's the CEO of Google, accused Larry was basically like, AI is going to run the world. This intelligence is going to run the world, and the humans are going to. And Elon responds like, "Well, what happens to the humans in that scenario?" And Larry responds like, "Don't be a speciesist. Don't like preferentially value humans." And that's when Elon's like, guilty as charged. I value human life. There's something sacred about consciousness that we need to preserve. And I think that there's a psychology that is more common among people building AI that most people don't know, that we had a friend who's interviewed a lot of them. And this is the quote that he sent me. He says, "In the end, a lot of the tech people I'm talking to, when I really grill them on it, they retreat into number one, determinism. Number two, the inevitable replacement of biological life with digital life. And number three, that being a good thing anyways. At its core, it's an emotional desire to meet and speak to the most intelligent entity they've ever met. And they have some ego-religious intuition that they'll somehow be a part of it. It's thrilling to start an exciting fire. They feel they will die either way, so they'd like to light it just to see what happens."
Which is so concerning that these types of people are, have so much control right now. Oh, but at the same time, I feel like, I don't know how about you, but I felt that it is so human. Like, sometimes you're so deep in something. Let's say, I don't know, you lied about something, right? And then you try to cover it up and cover it up and cover it up, and then you're just like drowning in this lie. And eventually there comes this point when you're like, whatever, just let it burn. When you just don't care. Although of course you do care, but just something like switches in your brain and you're just like, fuck it. And I think that might be what's happening to a lot of those people, because they are way too deep now. Also, so much money is involved in this. Just like an unimaginable amount of money is involved. So I can see having that. I might have, like, if I were there, I probably would have been one of those people who are like, fuck it, because it is just something so human about it, and just something so satisfying, I guess. I don't know what it is. Like, if any of you are like psychologists, maybe you can tell me what it's about. It is scary. I'm not supporting this. This is awful. But I also understand where it comes from. Another one is social media. I think social media has, social media has rotten our brains. It created this mental health crisis amongst the youth. It didn't create it, but it exacerbated, right? Social media made us the product, right? Our attention is the commodity, which led to the emergence of this polarizing topics. Like, if you read an nuanced article about like, there are things like this and there are things like that, it is not gonna trigger an emotional response. I mean, it will, but it's not gonna be as strong as if you read someone like Tucker Carlson or whatever. I don't know if he writes. Does he write? I listen to Tucker Carlson or Ben Shapiro or whatever. Like, that makes you just want to punch someone in the face, and that forces you to stay in the platform for longer, right? Not to mention people who get radicalized because of this content, because they're young, vulnerable, they may not understand everything about they may not understand the full context of what the topic is about. Like if I watched I don't know, Ben Shapiro, for example, when I was like 14, even though I'm a woman, I don't know how I would have reacted to his rhetoric. Like, it's a lot harder to be critical, and because when you haven't like lived long enough, and you haven't like had a job, you haven't like spoken to different people, you haven't traveled, you haven't like explored different cultures, you haven't like I was a white girl from Russia. Like, where would I have ever seen like racism, you know? And in these types of environments, you kind of do grow up thinking that racism does not exist, because, you know, slavery has been abolished, so racism does not exist. I know. But then you grow up and you talk to people, and you like maybe watch different movies, you read different books, or if you have a chance to travel, you travel and you realize how the world actually works, and that, you know, it's a lot more complex than you thought it was. And kids who lack this context, lack this understanding, not because there's anything wrong with them, they're just kids, they're young, they kind of buy into that and get radicalized, and that's obviously is a big problem, because then again you have access to this very potentially powerful technology that you can do whatever you want with, and that can lead to tragic outcomes. Also, even if you know, the tragedies don't happen somehow, let's see, every single person in the world is just the nicest, and you know, they will never, I mean, I don't know how hard I have to hit my head to believe that, but whatever. We are getting stupider, like on a, you know, on the grand scheme of things. Like, you know, attention span is going down, and all the conspiracy theories, and just like, it is basically idiocracy in the making, and that is also a big problem. Like, yeah, idiocracy is definitely not the worst that can happen, at least we are alive, but like, would you want to live in that society from that movie? Probably not, right? It is so scary, because also when you lose this ability to like think for yourself and like function as a human being, you are again making yourself vulnerable. And when you make yourself vulnerable, like, there's nothing wrong with being vulnerable. We all have been vulnerable once or twice in our life, right? You get sick, you get stressed out, you get depressed, you move to a new country, you change your jobs, you get divorced. Like, a lot of these situations make you vulnerable, and that's fine, but at least that is like temporary, and you can hopefully change that in the future. But if you're vulnerable just because you lack whatever to function, that's a problem. The geopolitical situation in the US is obviously also a problem, because US as an entity and US-based AI companies are just tunnel visioned on beating China in AI race. It's a difficult topic, because I understand why they want to win, because first of all, money and power, and second of all, if you win, then China loses, right? And I understand the potential concern of, you know, China having access to this type of technology, because it's I don't know if it's a dictatorship, but it's not a democracy, let's put it this way. Like, China is not a democratic country. So giving like this technology to a authoritarian, or let alone totalitarian leader, is catastrophic. So I get all that. However, the implications of just releasing AI without making any tests, without, you know, considering ethical implications, without making sure we make it safe. First and foremost, fuck the progress, fuck the research. We need to make it safe, and then we will, if we make it safe, we will get to that progress. Yeah, maybe it won't be our lifetime, and that sucks, and I get that, but it's okay. It is still better than rushing into that disregarding any potential repercussions just to win the race against China. Because I promise you, those people in AI companies don't really care about curing cancer. Maybe some of them do, but they because of the capitalistic regime, they just care about winning. It's about winning. It's the American obsession with winning. And in this case, what are you winning? Like, genuinely, what are you gonna win? You're gonna win all those consequences first. Yeah, maybe you'll find the cure to cancer or whatever, but you're also gonna win all of that shitstorm. And you will be the first dealing with that. And you will be the first to making all of those mistakes, because obviously you will make mistakes. That's just human nature. You will make all of those mistakes on how to deal with it. And then if you survive, then other countries will look at you, see what you did right and what you did wrong, and they will basically have a much better chance of avoiding most of those mistakes, including China, by the way. So like in the long term, they might actually win, because like similar thing happened in social media, right? America was the first one to adopt social media, and they were the first one to deal with mental health issues. So, and like loneliness crisis or whatever. Like, you don't always need to be first in everything. Number 5, I just wrote clusterfuck because I don't know how to name it, but it's like general clusterfuck that we're living in right now, right? With Israel, Middle East, Russia, Ukraine, election in the US, the weakening democracies in Europe and in the West, the right-wing proliferation again in like Europe, in the US, economic crisis, right? We're like on the verge of recession for like always, just like we're always on the verge of recession. Like all this stuff is very important, obviously, but it is distracting us from the topic in hand, right? So it's just a lot is happening. I am very overwhelmed with everything, and I am like far removed from all these crises because I'm not based in Europe, and I'm not American. So I'm not that far removed because I am Russian. Obviously, it does concern me a lot, but like I am not physically there. So people who are physically there, people who are in the middle of those hotspots, obviously they are not thinking about AI. They're thinking about surviving. And number 6 is, of course, capitalism. The favorite word of any social justice warrior is capitalism. And like, what I'm gonna say. Capitalism just skews our value system, because I am sure that the overwhelming majority of people who work in those AI companies understand the potential implications, but they make promises to investors that they have to keep up with. That's just how the system works. And OpenAI now is shifting its business model to for-profit, and they've been losing money every year, and they need to start making money. So they will not stop with acceleration, and that is again very concerning. So right now we have the acceleration for the sake of acceleration. There isn't like a goal, like a common goal that unites us all with accelerating AI. They aren't even selling it as like cure for cancer or climate change or any other like poverty. Any other like huge things that we are as humanity all need to find solutions for. It's just acceleration for the sake of acceleration. So yeah, companies are in a race with each other, releasing new services without making sure they are safe and factual, and we've all seen outcomes of that with AI suggesting to put glue on pasta or eat rocks or whatever. And these are like the most innocuous examples, like, because no one's gonna take them seriously. Like even children know that you should not eat glue, but when it becomes like less obvious. And AI companies, of course, they patch those mistakes whenever something like that is publicized and people talk about it and goes viral. And of course, OpenAI and other AI companies fix it. But there are just like an endless amount of potential jailbreaks that we can make, because again, it's a black box. People don't know what exactly it's thinking and how it comes to conclusions it comes to. So it's very hard to eliminate every single jailbreak from being used, and we just need some sort of breakthrough, I guess, like a different solution to that problem that we not yet have. And people with bad intentions are already using Gen AI to run scams, to defraud people, to avoid the law, and it's only gonna get worse, right? It's only the beginning. It's just the beginning. The technology is already very, very good, but it's still like not good enough for some experts or like people who know they're talking about to see the differences. Like in deepfakes, they are very good, but if you look very closely, you may see some differences. Same with AI generated voice and stuff like that. But are all of us experts on any of those things? Like, or are we supposed to become experts on everything now? We're supposed to be like suspicious of every piece of media we ever come across? Or are we supposed to just hope that every single person with an internet connection is just good person who will not use this technology for bad things? There are like full-on AI stores that are like completely fake, with like AI generated pictures of AI generated clothes that did not exist. AI generated toys and couches, like the gorilla couch. AI actors, they're like selling their likeness to a company that can just use their image, their voice, and their likeness for anything for the rest of their lives, and even after they're gone, right? Like, I don't know who does that, who sells their likeness to those companies, but just be careful, please, because first of all, you might be out of the job like forever if you do that. And also, are you like, is there a contract? Are you sure they cannot use your likeness for like scams, for any type of like sexual content? And if you're okay with that, that's cool, I guess. But there's just a lot that you need to, make sure that you're safe. Self-driving cars that, still honking like at 4 a.m. in the parking lot in San Francisco and keeping everyone up the whole night.
Over the past 2 weeks, I've been woken up more times overnight than I have combined over 20 years.
Russell Pofsky lives in a building adjacent to White. He says the honking incidents have happened at random times during both the day and night and have started to take a toll on him.
I could not be more cranky today for a Monday. After these past 2 weeks, it's really at a high level. It's just really, really, it's tough. It affects the way you feel.
Of course, there are like deepfake scams. There was a guy who was scammed. He logged into a conference call, video call, and used this deepfake to raise like $25 million for some project or whatever. And it's just one example. I remember that because I used this example in an article that I wrote, but there are so many of these occurrences. Is there anything we can do? And the nihilist in me would say no, and let's just give up and let the world burn. But I also understand that this is a very counterproductive approach to really anything, especially something that can be this devastating. And the optimist in me, hopes that maybe something will change, right? We did manage to fix the nuclear weapon thing for the time being. For the sake of this video, let's ignore the reality of, the fact that we might still be at risk of a nuclear strike. Let's just forget about it just for a second. So there is hope that maybe we will change something. Maybe every single, maybe leaders from every single country will come together and come up with a plan on how to deal with it and how to minimize the potential implications of AI. And when I say every single country, I mean it, because it has to be every single country. Because if we all here, like let's say, US, Europe, Canada, like Latin America, we all come together and agree to prioritize safety and ethics of AI, and then China doesn't, or Russia doesn't. I'm not going to say anything bad about China. I'm going to talk about Russia because I'm from there, so I don't want to offend anyone. Let's say Russia doesn't, which is very likely, because Putin would do anything to be not like America. Like, literally anything to be not like other girls. So it is very likely that if the US does that, Putin will be like, no, freedom of speech, whatever. And he will encourage and continue the AI development. And yeah, Russia is lacking a lot of good technical people, because all of them left, or the majority of them left, because there's just no prospects there right now for them. But some are still there. Plus, it is also possible that some freedom lovers from the US would maybe go to Russia, or from other countries go to Russia to work on those free for all AI LLMs out of principle, or I don't know. I am making this up right now, but it is a possible scenario that Putin and some other countries, some other anti-American countries would not agree to work together, and they would work in parallel, and they will not prioritize safety, and they will just release whatever. And because it's a software and it is available to no matter, anyone with internet access can access ChatGPT, for example, right? You need to be based in the US. So it just makes it a lot harder. So even if we all come together and, pinky swear, there's still, if we have even one outlier, we're not safe. Because of that, it's really hard to be an optimist in this scenario. Really, really, really hard. And I talked about AI about this, not ChatGPT. I talked to Claude, but potato. And I asked it about based on human history I've learned, do you believe it's a plausible scenario that we will, unite together to slow down AI development with regulations? And it says it's challenging to be optimistic about global unity in regulating AI development. It's just AI, right? It is not a historian, but I was just trying to maybe there were some examples that I'm just not familiar with. And it gave some examples Montreal Protocol successfully addressed ozone depletion through global cooperation. Yes. International Space Station demonstrates international scientific collaboration. That is also true. CERN shows how countries can cooperate on advanced scientific projects. All of this is true. But even that, after saying all that, if first it gave all the the bad stuff, then it's however, blah, 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 Montreal Protocol. And then after that, while these examples are encouraging, they generally did not involve the same level of economic and strategic competition as AI. But a more plausible scenario might be some level of cooperation among like-minded countries, partial regulation in certain regions and sectors, ongoing tension between regulation attempts and rapid AI development. And then I ask, but do you think your plausible scenario would be enough? Even if one country goes against adopted regulations and releases unregulated AI or AGI, it will spread across the world and it will be potentially accessible to people with bad intentions. Am I wrong? And AI says, you're raising a crucial point and your concern is well-founded. You're not wrong in your assessment of potential risks, global impact of localized development. You're absolutely correct that an AI or AGI or advanced AI system without proper safeguards in one country could have worldwide implications and accessibility to malicious actors. So it's, I tried to talk to AI about this. I asked like, well, what would happen if we don't regulate the AI market? And it, I'll show you the list in the video, but unchecked development is companies might prioritize rapid development over safety, amplification of biases, privacy concerns, economic disruption, concentration of power. A few tech giants could dominate the AI landscape, potentially leading to monopolistic practices and stifling innovation from smaller players, security risks, erosion of trust, ethical dilemmas, widening inequality, international tensions, and existential risks. And I asked it to elaborate on existential risks. It talks about superintelligence. Some researchers theorize about the potential development of artificial general intelligence that could rapidly improve itself, leading to intelligence explosion. If such a system were to surpass human-level intelligence across all domains, it will pursue goals misaligned with human values. Control problem, unintended consequences, resource competition, weaponization, economic and social disruption, and epistemic challenges. I will link the whole conversation below if you're interested, or you can have the same conversation with whatever Gen AI tool you like to use. But yeah, I guess what I'm looking for here is a conversation with, you don't have to be like an AI expert, I feel like, to have a conversation, because it will affect all of us. So let's talk about it. Tell me what you think, what you agree, what you disagree with. What AI experts do you trust with delivering this information, and what solutions do you think might get us to this safe future?